Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Suraj in Cloud. In this video, we are going to see control plane logging and how that works. In previous videos, we have seen the EKS architecture and how we can spin EKS with the managed node group and where are the pieces and bits and bobs like that. So let's quickly dive into the how logging looks like and how to configure it. So in EKS, when you configure control plane logging, you get to select 5 different components. First one is API, which is API server. Audit logs. Audit logs are basically what user or role did, what kind of activity. It audits everything. Third one is authenticator logs, which is basically every auth query gets logged in here. Other one is control manager and the scheduler logs. Now all these logs are grouped under this group called log group /AWS/EKS/ your cluster name /EK/cluster. Now the retention period can be configured separately. We will see while performing what is the by default retention and how you can configure. All the control plane logs have already been set to verbosity level 2 when they ship the logs, and which is this. Now one important thing here is once you enable the CloudWatch logging, you get charged separately for the log ingestion, all the archive storage if you archive the logs, the storage for that logs, and the data scanning, the scanning through your logs. So logs, there is a separate charge for CloudWatch logging. Once you enable it, it's not part of your EKS control plane pricing or anything, right? So let's dive into it and see how that works. So here we are into my AWS account and we'll spin up the new cluster just to see the logging. We'll just keep all the versions as it is. We have seen that in previous video. The cluster role we have, we'll select my VPC which is already there with all the subnets. We'll keep it as public. We'll keep all the add-ons as it is. Now here's the important thing which we are interested in. To enable the logging, I can just enable either one of them or I can enable all of them. So for this particular tutorial, we are going to enable all the control plane logging. So let's enable it and let's spin up the cluster. It will take around 10 minutes to get the control plane up and running. I'm not adding any node groups or anything because logging for data plane is different. So as cluster will be up, it will take around 10 minutes as I said. So if we go to CloudWatch, we might be able to see new log group. It hasn't been created yet, but as soon as cluster is up, we will be able to see the logs. So yeah, let's grab a coffee till the cluster is up. So it's been almost 9-10 minutes. Our cluster has been provisioning. It should be active in any minute. So meanwhile, we can go to the CloudWatch dashboard and see if there is anything that come up. So under CloudWatch, if you go under the log group, we can see the log group AWS EKS, our cluster name and cluster has been created as we discussed before. and the retention has been set to never expire. That means these logs will stay here forever. Now it can cost a lot, so we can configure that from here. If you click on it and go to actions, and if you edit the retention settings, you can set it to however you want. I will set it to 1 day. So let's go inside the log group. As we discussed, there are 5 different streams for the API server, audit logs, controller manager, authenticator, and the scheduler. Right now we'll go in one of the log stream and see the logs. Meanwhile, if we see our EKS dashboard, our cluster is now active. Now let's go into the Cube API server and see what's been happening here. If we see further older events, no older events, so it starts from here, and if you see, it prints out all the flags to the API server. Now in EKS control plane, if you have to see how the API server is been set up, this is the only way you can see all the flags on the API server pod or container, how it's been set up. You can see all that pods, and it's been initialized things, all the RBAC and stuff, everything you can see here in the API if you're interested into the API server logs. Next up is the audit log. Audit logs are quite interesting. So it shows if any of the entity, whether it is service account or like any user, what it did, what action it did on what kind of resource, all sorts of audit logs. It is very important for the security teams. Now if you see, there are more log stream coming up. They are basically once the more logs populate, the more and more log stream will come up. Now we saw API server audit, and then there is a controller manager log. Now controller manager is like a group of different controllers. It can be namespace controller, pod controller, or anything. So these logs you can see over here. And the next one is authenticator. It's all about the authentication, which we'll see in upcoming videos. And the last one is the scheduler. As you can see, the logs regarding no nodes, unable to schedule pod, because we haven't really scheduled the managed node groups, so there must be core DNS pod in pending state. That's why we can see those logs. Also for scheduler, you'll be able to see the flags, how they are being configured. So this is pretty much about how you can configure the control plane logging and how you can visualize all those logs. You can change the retention settings whenever you want, but as soon as you change the retention, all the old logs will get removed. Right now, if we go back to our cluster configuration and then to the logging, you will see the logs has been enabled for all the components. Now if you click on logging, you can disable the logging at any point of time. For example, let's say I don't want logs for scheduler and control manager, and if I save them and you will see the logging update is in progress, and if you go to the logging, they are still enabled, but once this logging update goes complete, then we will no longer see the logs for scheduler and controller manager. Right, so that's how you can like change the what to log and what not to log at any point of time, and similarly the retention period as well. So it takes quite a lot of time to do that process, but you get the idea of it. So yeah, it is showing what we are trying to do here, enabling API server audit and authenticator and disabling the controller manager and the scheduler. Okay, so our logging update was successful. Now if I go to logging section, you will see controller manager and scheduler are disabled while others are still enabled. Now if you refresh here, when there will be new logging stream, we won't see the controller manager and the scheduler logs, right? So okay, so there was one at 320 and there was at 325, 326. As soon as new one will come up, they won't have the logs. Interesting. So this was pretty much about the control plane logging, how you can enable the logs for particular resource, or what sort of logging is available, how to configure the retention, how to view the logs. But this was more about the control plane and not the data plane. In upcoming videos, we'll see how we can configure worker as the data plane logging and few other interesting stuff around EKS. Till then, if you like this video, give us the like and subscribe the channel. Thank you so much. Bye.